Hope you're having a good day today. So in this video, I will introduce you to the basics of Three.js and show you how to get started with creating 3D scenes, adding shapes and objects, and manipulating the camera view. So if you're unfamiliar, Three.js is a powerful and popular library for building interactive 3D graphics in the browser. So just for an example, I'll show you in their documentation. These are their examples. So I'll show you one among them. So this is from Canon. Okay, it's still loading. Yeah. Now if I scroll down, you get this amazing 3D view, which is really cool. See how the camera perspective changes. Interactive 3D gallery. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, so I'll be teaching you the basics of how to get started with Three.js. So let's get started. So let me go to my terminal, go to dev, go to YT. Here I'll create it. npm create. We'll be using Vite, so add latest. Okay, so I'll call this 3 for now. We'll be using vanilla JavaScript with TypeScript. Okay, so I'll cd into 3 and I'll install the dependencies. So once that's done, okay, I'll open my VS Code. I'll expand this a bit. And okay, hope the font size is big enough. I've increased a little bit. So let me just run the server to check whether everything is working. So npm run dev. Let's go to localhost 5173. Okay, everything is working. Great. So next what we'll do is let's clear all this out. We don't need any of this. Let me go to the terminal. Okay, I'll clear the styles also. We don't need the counter. Yeah, that's fine. So let's get started. Is my server running? Okay, cool. I'll open that in the background. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so whenever you're creating a Three.js project, there are 3 things which you need. One is the scene, the camera, the lights, and the objects. So let me show you. So first I'll import from 3. I'll import everything. So start as 3. This is probably the type definition. 3 is okay. So I forgot to install the 3 package. So npm I 3. Okay, I think we'll also need to, the error clears out. Yeah, now I have to the type definitions, so I'll install that also. So with that, all the errors should have gone. Okay. So next, okay, so with this we've installed a 3 package. So first what we need is a scene. So in order to create a scene, I'll create a constant called scene from new 3.scene. Okay, so this scene will contain everything which we'll be creating from moving forward. So say we are if we are having a camera, we are having, say, those objects, all will have to add to scene. You'll see that in a moment now. Next, we'll have to define the viewport. So viewport is basically the size of this, like the height and the width. So let me just create that object now. So the width will be window dot inner width. we'll be using this object later on. So height will be window dot inner height. Okay, next we'll create a camera. So camera, so let me create the camera constant now. That'll be coming from new 3 dot perspective camera. So there are a bunch of different, if I go to the documentation again, 3, let me go here, 3 docs. So if I go here and go to camera, there are a bunch of different cameras. As you can see, we have orthographic camera, perspective camera, stereo camera. I could show you if you want. So we'll be using perspective camera. If I go to their examples, these are all their good examples. This is a perspective camera. Each have their own quirks, so each is slightly different than the other. It depends on the use case. Let me try cube camera. This is kind of a wide angle look. So what we are using is perspective camera. This mimics the human eye, as it's mentioned here. It's kind of like that. Whereas these two are used for as a cube camera is used for a wide angle type of view. So yeah, based on your use case, you should mention. I urge you to check all these examples out. You'll have a better clear understanding of what these cameras do. So now for now we'll be using perspective camera, which mimics the human eye basically. So the first parameter will be the FOV, which is basically the vertical field of view, and then we'll need to give it the aspect ratio, which is basically the height of the window and the width of the window. So now to do that, what I'll do is the object which I created, I'll just put it here, and I could probably put this directly, but I'll be using this I'll be using this later on as well. So instead of having different values in different places, if I store it in one place, it'll be easier for me to change the value if I need to. So window dot width, no, I mean sorry, viewport dot width and viewport height dot height, and then you give it two values. This is basically saying the camera, anything between these two values should be seen. If the camera is above 100 this value, the object won't be seen. That's what these two values are. So next we'll have to add the camera to the scene. So scene dot add camera. If I save everything, nothing is there in the browser because we've not put anything, we've just basically added the camera. Okay, next let me add the object here. So in Three.js, an object is basically called a mesh, and mesh will have two things, which is, the first thing is geometry. So geometry is basically the shape of the object. So for this example, I'll use the box geometry, and these parameters are basically height, width, and the last one was depth. So 1 1 1, and these are basically units. It's not mentioned like whether it's pixels or these are basically just units. So yeah, I like to think of it as SI units. It depends on what you're building. If you're using meters, you should, like 1 meter, you should mention it everywhere as 1 meter. But these are basically just units. They have It's not mentioned whether it's pixels or meters or anything of that. So next we'll create material. This is basically the material of the geometry. So in this case we'll use Three.mesh basic material. And again, if you go to the docs, there are a bunch of different materials. So each again will have their own quirks. So the most famous one is probably standard material, which I'll be showing soon. And the most basic one is the basic material. These are basically these are used for mesh. Matcap material is used for metallic objects, I think. Yeah, so you have a bunch of these materials. Okay. Oh, I can show you the geometry as well. Geometry. Yeah, so we'll be using the box geometry. It's somewhere here. And I'll show you one of those. So ring geometry, these are all the parameters. So yeah, which is cool, pretty cool. Okay, so we've created the geometry and the material, and here I could mention the color of it. So I'll say it as red. And next, let's create the mesh. So cube, again, mesh is basically the objects which you'll be creating. New Three.mesh, and you give it the geometry and the material, and then you add it to the scene like always. Cube. Okay. If you go again, nothing appears here because there are a slightly like little more configuration to be made. So next, what we'll define is the renderer. So let's create that. Renderer is equal to new Three.webgl renderer. Let me go here. Basically WebGL renderer, and inside that you'll have to give it a canvas. So this is basically where Three.js kind of maps to the HTML, the DOM, and whatever is there inside this canvas will be shown in the screen here. So you'll understand shortly. So here I'll have to call document.query selector. This we haven't created yet. I'll create it shortly. Selector .webgl. I'll call the class name as. This will be okay. It's showing me an error because I have to mention the type as well. So HTML canvas element. Okay, that's good. No errors. Fine. So let's create this now in the index.html. So right here I'll create a canvas and I'll give it a class name of, okay, it's class. I'm still in the React world. WebGL. Okay. So here what we are doing is now we are telling the renderer to target this canvas, and anything inside this will be shown here. Okay. So once that's done, let me renderer dot render, and you give it the scene and the camera. Okay, so we have something here now. As you can see, we still cannot see the box which we defined here. That is because our camera right now is inside the object. You'll understand when I show you this. So I'll position the scene. Go up here, camera dot position dot set. So this is basically we are giving the coordinates of the camera in the XYZ plane. So the first is the X, which is 0, Y is 0, and let's say the Z is 3 or 2. Now now we see something here. I'll just close this. Yeah, now we see something here, and the shape is off, I think, because we have to mention the position of the mesh as well. So in order to do that, I come here, cube dot position dot set. I give a, say, 0 0 0, so in the origin. Yeah, that's fine. So we've got this, but let's increase the size of the renderer. So in order to do that, go here, renderer dot set size to viewport. That's why I created the object. We are constantly using the height and width of the viewport dot height. And with that, yeah, now that's good. Now everything is showing up in the screen. So this is kind of like the hello world of Three.js. I know it might seem a lot because if it's the first time you're seeing it, it's overwhelming. But let me just go through it. Like, if you just understand it, it becomes very easy. So in order to create something, you need three things, which is the scene, the camera. You'll also need light, but in this case we don't need light because we're using basic material. I'll be showing you later on with light as well. And you need the renderer. Anything which you define here, say if you're creating another mesh, you'll have to add it to the scene. Without you adding it to the scene, nothing will come up here. And while you're initially creating in the index.html, you'll also have to mention the canvas, and you'll have to target that canvas here in the renderer. You'll have to mention it here, canvas.document query select. You could use any CSS selector, that doesn't matter, but I've chosen query selector because it's the most popular one. So that's done. Let me fix this. Like, you can see these white bars here. I'll fix that as well. So in order to do that, I'll just target everything and say padding is 0, margin is 0, and I'll have to import the style sheets here, not here. I'll import it here. So let's say rel style sheet, and the source will be src and style.css. Okay, so with that, we've white lines, the bar is gone. Next is this thing. Let's get rid of this as well, the scroll bar. So for that, I just go here, overflow, hidden. That should get rid of it. Okay, so everything is gone now. Next, what we'll do is, let me just show some properties. So no, actually, let me show you, like, to get a three-dimensional look and feel for the object. Let me show you a cool trick here. It's not a trick. Like, I'll import orbit controls from 3 examples and example GSM controls, and in controls orbit controls. You'll see what this is in a moment. So once that's done, we'll have to add the controls to our project here. So in order to do that, let me see, where should I create it? Let's create it right under camera. So here, controls, const controls is equal to new orbit controls. Okay, and to the orbit controls you'll have to give it two things, which are the camera and the DOM element. So the camera I've already defined, and the DOM element will be, I'll have to target it. So document dot query selector, and it is the WebGL. So dot WebGL. Okay. And again it's giving me an error because I have to mention to cast it HTML element. That should get rid of it. Okay. So again, let me check whether this is working. Let me add another controls here. Control. Okay, I'll do this later. Next, what we'll do is, in order for that to work, let's create a function, and let's call it animate. Inside this function, this is basically each time the frame runs, I want this to update. So that is why I'm creating this. So here, renderer dot render the scene and the camera. So we don't need this here. And request animation frame. I give animate. Save that. That's because I'm not calling this animate outside the function. Let me just finish this first. And here, controls dot update, and I'll call it here. So now, if everything I did was correct, it should pop up here. Okay. Now you can see I have this 3D kind of look, orbit with the orbit controls, which is really cool. Let me just add another parameter here. So the camera always looks at the object. So look at cube dot position. Now we have this nice three-dimensional kind of look, which is really cool. Let me show you some other properties of this. So I could say scale it down, like I could squash it as cube dot scale is a scale set. So let me squash it. Oops, I broke something. Okay, let me scale it up. Okay, so now 2. Yeah, I squashed because I gave the scale as 0, so there's nothing. Yeah, so in the y-axis I basically increase the size. I could do the same for the in the horizontal axis, which is 2. Yeah, as you can see here, in the x-axis the scale has increased. I could do that in the z-axis, but I don't think you can see it because it's towards us. Let me see. 2. Yeah, that's cool. So you could also optionally change it, like if you want to say, we've mentioned the position to be in the origin, right? So I want it to be slightly, say, on top. So 1 will go up. This is because we're seeing from the camera point of view. It's the cube has gone up. I'll keep it at 0. You could also go like, say, cube dot position dot x. You could just mention the x-axis. That also works. But I like to put it all in like one line so that it's concise. Okay. So next, what we'll do is, okay, as you can see here, it's not resizing. Like I'll have to refresh it, then it resizes. So let's fix that. So in order to fix that, we'll have to add an event listener. So I'll add it here at the end maybe. So resize. Let me window dot add event listener, call the resize, and a function. So in the function I'll change the size dot viewport dot width is equal to window dot inner width, and same thing I'll do with the height, HEIGHT. Window dot inner height. And you'll also have to, let me check this, it's still not working. That's because I'll have to mention the renderer also. You'll have to set the renderer dot set size also. You'll have to update it. Set size sizes viewport dot width and viewport dot height. Let me check. Okay, now it's working. Okay, this is because we'll also have to update the camera's perspective. So here camera dot aspect will change to sizes dot width. I keep tagging sizes. So viewport dot width and viewport height dot height. So once that's done, we'll have to update project metrics, projection metrics. Okay. Now if I did everything, it should work. Yeah, now the cube is not scaling as we saw earlier. Okay, so that's done. Now let me show you the lights which I previously told you. So here if I go, let's say, let's create it right, camera controls, let's create it here, and later I'll show you like a bonus kind of thing where we'll import a spaceship here. I'll show you that once we've covered up the basics. So const say ambient lights. So again, if you go to the docs, there are a bunch of different lights. If I go here and type lights, you'll see point light, directional light, spotlight. We'll be using the point and the ambient light. So basically the ambient light is, it lights up everything uniformly. You'll see that now. I'll change this to standard material. Standard material, and I'll save it. Okay, I'll just comment this out. You can't see anything because there's no lights in the scene. Only for mesh basic material you can like see the object without lights, whereas for this mesh standard material, which is the most popular and most used material, you'll have to add lights. It gives a realistic kind of look. So const ambient light new 3 dot ambient light if I go to their docs here, I go to lights, let's go here, I'll copy this out. This is basically the hexa code for white color. If you go here, and the next property is the intensity. How bright do you want the it to light it up? So 0.2. Okay, I'll save it. You cannot see anything because you'll have to add this to the scene. As I said previously, anything which you create, you'll have to add to the scene. So ambient light, I'll save. Now you can see that. Okay, it's still quite dim because I've given the intensity only 0.2. If I increase it to 1, it should brighten, but to I'll keep it as 0.2. Yeah, and I'll change this to, say, sphere. No, I'll change that later. Fine. I'll create another light, const. This time I'll create a directional light dot direction. This is kind of like those studio lights. It doesn't light everything. It does not light everything up uniformly. It comes from a specific direction. So again, I'll copy this out here and I'll give the intensity as 1. I'll add it to the scene. So scene dot add. Let me spell that, L-I-G-H-T, light. Save that. As you can see here, it's the light is coming directly from top. It's hitting here on the surface. We can change that. So I could just go light dot position dot set. I'll put it in the x-axis, 1 slightly above and 0. Should light, yeah, now it's lighting here. The light is coming up from here. Okay, so this is basically the basics of Three.js. Now you might be wondering, like, okay, a box is cool and all, but I want to see how that was built. The camera the camera example which you saw earlier, I want to see how that is done. So in order to do that, Three.js allows us to import models. Like, you can create new models from software such as Blender, a three-dimensional modeling tool. You can use that to create your own models, and you can render it out here. So in this video we won't be doing that. We'll be using a model from this site which is called I think it is called Sketchfab or something. Yeah, Sketchfab. If I go here and I search for something like spaceship, I'll just check the downloadable. All these models, not everything, but some of them, these are all have price tags. Okay, this one. Just go here. You can import this to our canvas. So in order to do that, what you can do is just click on download 3D model and you download the GLTF, this one. You just download it and I'll show you how to import it. I have one here with me. So if I go to downloads and yeah, Space Fighter, let me go here in the public directory. Let me create a new folder, models. Don't need this SVG, and I'll just place it here. I think that's done. Yeah, it's there inside. Oops, what did I do? Let me just go back. Okay, so our models is here. So under public, and you create a new folder called models, and in that you basically paste the folder which you downloaded here. So let's import that now. Let's go. Let's import it, right? These are the lights. Okay, here, models. So const gltf loader, and you'll have to import this. So come here, go to 3 examples, GSM, and JSM, it should be in loaders. Yeah, loaders, gltf loader, gltf loader, and I'll go here, gltf loader. So now, so we have a gltf loader. It's instantiated, so new gltf loader, and inside that, so that instance, gltf loader dot load, we'll have to mention the path next. So path will be in the dot models, and since it's in the public since it's in the public folder, you don't have to mention the public here. You could just directly mention the path just given here. So let me close that. So models, and models space fighter is the folder name, so FIGHTER if I'm correct, space fighter, and inside that you go scene dot gltf. So again we target this one, this scene.gltf. We go to models space fighter scene.gltf. So once you've targeted that, it's giving me an error because you'll have to give it another parameter, which is a function gltf, and inside gltf I'll say spaceship is gltf dot scene. I think I'll have to create this variable. Okay, for now let me just show you what is happening. So scene dot add, so again we are adding anything which you create, you'll have to add it to the scene. So gltf dot scene, I save it and nothing comes up. Okay, it's because my server quit my server. npm run dev. I refresh this, I'm still getting that. Okay, I'm getting something here. As you can see here, there's something here. That's gigantic. You can see the spaceship. Let me just comment this out. We don't need the cube for now. If I, yeah, you can see it, but it's humongous right now. Let's scale this down a bit. Okay, this is, I'll just comment that also out. If I go here, I could scale it down by saying gltf dot scene dot scale dot set. So let's make it very small, 0.025, 0.025, 0.025. Save that. Where is it? Okay, now it's of decent size, as you can see here. So now you can just imagine the possibilities, which is you could also add animations in this, but in this video I won't be showing you that because this model doesn't come with animations. Let me just change the lighting a bit. So if I go to ambient light and let me put it in slightly up, it's loading. Okay, I could also increase this to 0.5. Because we are using a gltf load, it takes some time to load, but now you can see it clearly here. We've imported it from the gltf loader. Okay, so this is basically an introduction to Three.js. Hope you guys enjoyed. Um, before you guys leave, there's actually abstraction for Three.js with the React 3 Fiber. So if I go to React 3 Fiber, not Fiber, this is basically a layer on top of Three.js. So you could actually, all this line of code, you can condense it down to just a single lines of components. So if you go here, as you can see, it's in React. Three.js is basically in React, and you can create, if I go to their examples, they have examples, they should have examples. Here is the examples. Actually, you know what, React 3 Fiber code box, yeah, that's fine. It's taking us some time. Yeah, you can see here, this is basically Three.js but in React, which is far more easier than using traditional Three.js. So all this configuration which is made can be simplified a lot with R3F. But in order to use R3F, you'll have to learn the basics of Three.js, such as what are meshes, what are the lights, like the different types of lights which you have, the different controls, and there's also shadows which we haven't covered in this video. But in order to use R3F, you need to know the basics of Three.js, because then you won't know what you're doing. So say here in this example, point light, this is a type of light, the canvas, you need to know all these basics. So let me know if you want a video specifically on React 3 Fiber. I'll do it to you guys.